ahead. All right, we're back with another episode of the Weekly Boost podcast. This week, we're super excited to speak with John Mosley. John is the current men's basketball coach at East Los Angeles College. He's an alum of East LA as well, and prior to taking on the head coaching position, he also worked with a lot of D1 colleges and worked at coaching at the Division I level. So he is also well known for his program there at East LA. As you guys may be aware, he's recently featured on a Netflix original series, Last Chance U. Ben and I have loved that show, so if you guys haven't seen it yet, make sure you do. You learn some pretty cool stuff about some really awesome people and what they're doing over there at East LA. Yeah, without further ado, we're really happy that you could join us, John. We're going to enjoy talking with you. And so everybody, welcome to the show, John Mosley.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been pretty busy. You know what's interesting is I've been busy. Usually when I'm busy, I'm up and running around, but I've been busy on Zooms, man. We still, you guys are probably doing better than us. We still semi shutdown mode out here. Yeah. But it's given me a lot of opportunity to be able to talk and probably share with a few audiences, but so I probably wouldn't have the time to share had that not been okay.
Yeah, it's weird how sometimes those, how the pandemic has shifted the way we do things and the opportunities that we've been able to, like just us as a podcast, we talk about it too. Like Zoom and virtual meetings and stuff have allowed us to reach out to people that we wouldn't have been able to, but it comes at, a price. And I kind of wanted to start here because I coached, we both went to Ripon College. It's a small D3 school in Wisconsin, and played baseball. I coached for 2 years after there. And my second year of coaching was last year, and we actually didn't get a chance to get a game in. We found out the day before we left for our spring trip. And I know it's a different thing with your season last year, but I kind of want to start there and we can move past it to get into coaching stuff. But, how much of that emotion did you bear, compared to players too? Because even I, felt a lot for our players that didn't get their senior season, and for your guys not being able to compete for that state title. What can you kind of say about that?
Yeah, well, Ben, we going on 2 years now. I haven't been in the gym yet. So
oh wow,
for a year. So California, Southern California for that matter, is real tough. But as you mentioned, that emotion, man, I think the biggest thing, number one, as I shared at the end, I'm sharing with the guys that, I felt like they won. And it wasn't just a feel good speech like, hey, you guys are winners in my book.
Yeah.
You know how you do that.
Yeah.
I really felt like they won because they kind of culminated and they learned all the lessons that we were trying to teach them. And I was really so hurt that they didn't get a chance to experience and fulfill all the work that they've all the work. I mean, sincere, like turn the page sincerely. It wasn't, I was upset that we were not going to get a chance to play, but they didn't get a chance to receive the fruits of their labor in some ways. And it was kind of hard for me to sit there and watch. And another thing is there was just this burden like, oh man, I felt like I let the guys down because I told them all these things to do. I shared with them, okay, if we do this, this, and this will happen. And normally, we all got a formula. And when I shared the formula, normally it happens. And if the guys do it, and I tell them, hey, you can actually sneeze and it can all be over. Yeah. But nobody sneezed. Everybody did what they were supposed to do. The shoes were tied. Everybody was buttoned up. Everybody was ready to go. The posture, disposition, character, everything changed. It literally did change. And they played the right way. And that team in itself, forget the emotional issues that we dealt with or the emotional or the poor responses. Those guys actually genuinely liked playing together. I mean, we were 29-1, and it wasn't because of our talent. I'd like to think I'm a great coach, but really it comes down to the group that you have. That's the difference. In the NBA, professional sports might be talent, but when you come to, when you get to college, when it's all about, you lose one game and it's over and you don't get a series like the NBA, you get in the MLB, you get a series, right? So you can kind of lose a game and you can have a bad night and figure it out.
Yeah.
But high school, college, and where you only get one game and you're done. What brings you together for that one game and get through the adversity is guys loving on each other and guys, in the heat of the battle, you got to have each other's back and kind of a refusal together to lose. And I think that's what we had. And I was so burdened with, man, I let the guys down because they did everything I asked them to do. So that was more of the emotion. I just was like, golly, I let them down. And, really nothing I can do. Normally I have some level of control.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have any control. And I was just like, there was nothing I could do. But I let them know that they won because they did. They won. They changed everything. They changed their response. And that's all we were looking for. I really wasn't looking for the W. I was looking for them to change their response in life. And that's what they did. They changed their responses to what it's going to take to be successful. And so that's where I was at that moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And glad we're talking about the season and kind of like where like the show itself brought us on as an audience, right? We were able to see all aspects of, the players' lifestyles, your lifestyle, the whole coaching atmosphere and everything like that. It was all brought to us in a really accessible way. And so kind of like going with that, when everybody doesn't change when the cameras come on, but there's always that sort of pressure, right? When the cameras start rolling, like you have this sort of pressure to go. Like even with this, you kind of feel like a little bit of a, your nerves start getting you're antsy, you have adrenaline. And so like, did the film crew like around you at all times and like sort of during the games and all that sort of stuff affect your coaching or impact your coaching in a way?
No, not for a little bit. You trying to watch what you're saying at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then ultimately you kind of forget they're there after about a week or two.
Yeah.
And you just try to be natural. I mean, I used to forget. I mean, heck, I had the mic on and I was going to the restroom. I mean, I was just thought about it. I was like, you know what? If they want to put this in the show, then
yeah.
But I think they were good. And I think they've even proven themselves even more. If anybody calls me and asks me about that crew, it was phenomenal. They were sensitive to some of the things that could have been offensive, but they did a great job of putting the story together. So it was a little bit, you got a little nervous at the beginning, but then ultimately it was, you got kind of used to it,
Yeah. Yeah. You get accustomed to it. And, just from watching on the outside of your coaching style, it's really authentic. And I'm really glad that, you and other coaches that are kind of put on the spotlight are able to kind of put that on the back burner and realize what it's all about, right? It's not about, getting views on Netflix. It's to get these guys scholarships, have them, find, like you said, find different outlooks on life and change their responses to times of adversity. And I think that was really beneficial to watch.
Well, I didn't want to do it for that reason. I was like, man, I don't want to be that corny guy on some documentary that changes. Like all of a sudden they were a normal person. And then after they get on reality TV or a documentary, they just get all weird. And it's just like, all of a sudden they get makeup and Botoxes. And, Anyway, I don't want to offend anybody, but
I just want to coach, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to coach, man. I've been hit up by several people about doing stuff, man. Somebody hit me up about a reality. I was like, man, I'm a coach, man. I'm not trying to do all that.
Yeah.
Calling me about, it was like something similar to Survivor or something. I'm
okay.
Like, what do you think?
Well, I guess I kind of want to jump into a little bit of like the coach player dynamic, because that's been something that obviously as, collegiate athletes, Ben and I have kind of experienced this sort of stuff in good and bad ways. And, using the show as kind of a little bit of a background understanding like how your interactions go and stuff like that. But one of the things that we came across as like being student athletes is coachability, right? Like the ability to actually listen and, take constructive criticism from your coach and apply it into a way that makes you a better athlete and a better player, as well as just a better person. And so like, obviously your experiences, you come across numerous archetypes of players, right? Like you have, for example, just with basketball, you have like the all out scorer kind of thing, or you have like the person that's a team player, and you have to try to mesh all these people together in order to achieve, the same goal. And that's a state championship, or that's, winning at any level really. And so like, how were you able to do that? Because it was honestly remarkable bringing as many people together as you're able to do and, win after, season after season. It speaks to a sort of formula that you were talking about before.
Yeah, it has. It really, I have no clue what I'm doing, X's and O's. I have no clue. Really, the magic is how can you bring guys together? And I've kind of learned, and you kind of watch some of the coaches that you admire. You hear about like Phil Jackson, or I even watch guys like, how can you mix? You can see where guys are locking into what you do. But at the same time, every time these guys go to a different group, I was watching Larry Brown. He went from the Sixers to the, he won at Kansas, and then he goes to SMU and win. Like, they're all guys like that. They somehow understand how to turn the minds of those who are great into dreaming the dream. And I think you have to have that relationship with the individual players, and everybody has their little common dream, their little dream. Yeah. But you got to make those dreams a common dream.
Yeah.
So you got to take their dream and turn it into a common dream of everybody else. And you got to have that carrot. So it starts by, I believe, having that conversation. Like, what do they want? A lot of times us coaches, we come and hammer down like this. It's going to be my way or the highway. This is how it's going to be. And I think some of the feel that I've had is, hey, let me go in and see what they want, so I can kind of manipulate them to do what I want,
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the key. It's got to be mutual. You got to understand, and they got to know that you have a vested interest in what they want as well, and what their goals are and what their dreams are. And then you can kind of sell all of them on, okay, you said you wanted this, you wanted this, you wanted that. If we can all come together and if you do this, if we can win, we can get to this platform. And every year it may be different. There may be a different carrot every year. But you got to I think you got to spend the time. That's where a lot of time is spent finding out what it's going to take to motivate them, each individual, to kind of turn and go the same direction. So I think it starts with the relationships you have with the players to sell them on it. So there's no, okay, let's do it by us doing those line sprints. The line sprints don't do anything, because they won't do the line sprints with conviction if we're not going in the same direction. So the line sprints or the discipline is just a reminder that you need to go in the right direction, but it doesn't point them in the right direction. So I think it's the relationship and having them, getting them excited about those dreams that they have, and focusing them on our dreams together.
Sure. Yeah. Now that you say that, I think back to, when we come in at the beginning of a fall before school starts, and they're like, all right, like, what are the goals that you want for the season? And on the surface as a player, you're thinking, okay, like, this is for me to reflect, but at the end of the day, it's kind of for the coaches too. Like, you find that motivating factor that you like, okay, you said you wanted a sub-3 ERA, or you wanted your free throw percentage to be this, like, that's what you got to do to get there. And it takes everyone. And I think having, and I want to get into this in a little bit, but this idea of only having 2 years with guys to do that compared to 4, and to see, evolution that way, in players' ability and mental toughness. I've seen just guys that I was a part of at Ripon coaching, make huge strides into this year, and they're having, their best season yet, where it's like, maybe, they need to move up a level or, find other ways. But, the other thing I wanted to talk about is this idea with basketball. Obviously it's a smaller team, right, in number. Is it harder than with like baseball or football, where you get like 4 or 5 guys that are kind of your like core group of leaders and they move along? Or is it more like, everybody's on the same wavelength, or there's like 1 or 2 guys that kind of, realize, hey, I'm the alpha, I'm going to be, taking this team to the next level, where the coaches don't necessarily have to get in the weeds and do the policing that way?
You know what? I think the best way, it's been the best when it organically happens, where you kind of start out and everybody's on the same. And I think from a coaching perspective, I've seen over the years that it just kind of organically happens where everybody's there, everybody's held to the same standard. And then somebody decides to step out and, like we always say, right, the cream rises to the top.
Mhm.
Or somebody steps out and takes that ownership of, no, I'm going to lead. And this is what we need to do. We need to lock in. We need to do this. And that's kind of how you saw with Deshaun.
Mhm.
And then with that, you have to say, okay, now, Deshaun, if you're going to lead, this is the response I need from you. And so now you start to spend more time with him because he decides to lead. And now you have to say, okay, I think you are the leader, but in the leader, this is the way you need to respond in leadership.
Yeah.
Same thing with Joe. Like, Joe, everybody's looking up to you because you just have this presence where everybody follows you, but you can't respond and you can't react that way. So I think it all starts out the same. I mean, it's just like if you built a team, I don't think the dynamics necessarily change. I think what happens with basketball is anybody actually could be the leader. Maybe in football, it's always maybe the quarterback or the linebacker because the linebacker is calling stuff, and the quarterback usually the quarterback kind of organically is not even organically, he's kind of just the leader because he's the quarterback, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In basketball, man, any 5 of those guys that are on the court, we'd like it to be the point guard just because they have the ball and they're calling plays and stuff. But sometimes it's the forward. Sometimes it's Deshaun was the shooting guard. You never know. I've had years where the bigs were like, hey, man, we're going to do this. And the point guards, they shut up and listen. So I think with basketball, it can be a little different. It's just whoever rises, it's whoever rises out of those 14 or 15 guys that we carry.
And I think a lot of the comfort in being able to do that, like as a player, comes from like being able to trust your coach and your program. And that's something for myself personally that has come to like the top of my mind, like that when you're sitting down as a player and you're trying to figure out like, how can I contribute the most to the team? A lot of that is based off of, well, do I trust the coach or do I trust the other players on my team to make decisions that are benefiting the team as well? And like, you have to have that like sort of not like leap of faith moment, but you have to just be like, we're all on the same page trying to get to the same common goal. And that just builds the trust even further. And it makes it more difficult. And it makes it more difficult when you don't have that trust. And I think obviously by just watching, the show and kind of seeing the meshing of different people's personalities, as well as like using Coach Ken and Coach Rob, like as your support system as a coach and like trusting in them to get the job done, like what they're supposed to do in order to be a better head coach and be a better face of the program kind of thing. I feel like you're a good model for building that trust with the player and building that trust with the team that allows people to get the job done the right way. And you can see that all over the place when there's lack of trust, like either that be with a player and a front office, or a player and a coach, or a player and another player. You can see it start to like fall in shambles. And it's unfortunate, but like that's what makes the better teams better, is being able to be that way. And
everybody's got a wall up. I mean, when if we meet, I'm not going to tell you my life story. I'm not going to tell you all the things that I have issues with. So there's a level of trust. But I think it's important to go in there and break down those walls so that they know I really have a vested interest in them. And then they'll respond and say, well, he cares about me. So even though this is uncomfortable, I'm gonna do it. Because he cares about me, and it appears that he wants to get me to my individual goals as well. So I'll go ahead and buy in and trust and do this, this holistic goal, or this holistic, I'll trust so we can make sure this holistic goal happens. Because I think my individual goals are going to happen as well. I can trust them that much. So,
for sure.
Yeah, it's really a balance, right? That you're not too much of a player's coach, but not too much of an authoritarian where you're like, this is what we need to do. But, a lot of times, like I kind of alluded to, this difference in a 2-year, 4-year plan, like, do you feel like it's more difficult or it's easier to kind of like establish a winning culture? Because there is a lot of turnover of guys. I mean, obviously in 2 years, but is it hard to kind of develop this like culture of winning, or is it something that you kind of just, are at the top and kind of oversee, and then you can kind of insert ways that to develop this winning culture? Because I'm just really fascinated by like cultures of teams and how they can flip from year to year and things like that.
Well, yeah, I think we have credibility now, so
Yeah.
I can kind of just throw that in their face over and over again.
Yep.
But initially to start, it goes back to the relationship again. When I first started as a head coach, my thing is going to be toughness, physicality. It's going to be just all that. We're going to be grimy. We're going to have a chip on our shoulder. And so whatever comes off of me is going to be reflected in them. So I have this chip on my shoulder, and it's reflected through them in regards to how we compete and all that. But ultimately, the relationship we had and knowing what their goals were and sharing with them this dream, at the beginning. And I think the way it was sold is totally different than now. Now I can say, look, man, if you don't do what I say, it's not going to work out for you. I have the credibility of this, and this. We've been able to send players to the next level. We've been able to graduate guys and all that. So I can be a little more matter of fact now. When I first started, I had to be like, hey, fellas, let's go on this ride. Let's go on this dream. Man, it's going to be amazing, man. You got to get to the next level, the 4-year level. So I think the temperament was a little bit different. And it's just the same with, Coach K or anybody else. I think starting out, you really had to develop the family dynamic. And I couldn't come and just hammer down. I mean, even now I can't hammer down all the time with Joe Hampton or Deshaun because – there's things that are going on in their lives, and that's not the climate of how, our teenagers or our youth are now. So there was just a different way, and I think it's a feel. And I like to say, don't practice being a coach, man. Don't pretend being a coach, man. Be a person that loves and has compassion. Yeah. And I think then you can get people to follow you, And the best way to get people to follow you is for you to serve. So if they see them serving, then they'll follow. And I think that's kind of, if, without giving you a list of, I call it coach things. Well, first to establish the culture, you got to have your rules. To establish culture, you got to do this. Man, it comes down to the heart of where it's at. And that's still having that relationship and getting them to feel like really spending time feeling like they feel like they can trust you. And then it's like, all right, look, man, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to tell you what, we just got to get you to the 4-year experience. And I think that's what I sold them at the first year or so, and maybe if I coach at a university, I'll say, hey, look, man, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but man, I think you could be a pro and I want you to be a pro, and maybe that's what you're selling, but you got to sell the dream that they want to hear. And you got to, your tone has to be different starting out. Because they're going to put that wall up if you don't come at them right. And so communication is huge. And how you deliver that communication is important.
And obviously the grind to get there is immensely difficult, and you can see that through the evolution of the show and stuff like that, but as well as just in your own personal lives, you can understand the grind of just trying to be successful in anything you do. And so obviously you have these players coming in that they want to be able to go to the next level, and obviously sometimes work ethic needs to be developed more, or they have obviously just skill set needs to be developed more, but that's the reason why they're coming in to be coached. And so that speaks to the efforts of having that sense as a player to being coachable, but as well as a coach to understand, to read the room and understand what these players are and how they're different. And so obviously the grind comes to kind of a culmination when you're able to send your players off, right, to either the pros, they get scholarships to 4-year universities, or overseas or whatnot. They're able to go and live out their dream. And so obviously you're an influential person in their lives at that moment. So how does that impact you, and continuing to that affirmation of continuing of doing the right thing and putting your passion into the stuff that you love? Is it a good sense of accomplishment and kind of
every year is confirmation, man, that we're doing the right thing. And while I'm doing it, I'm not just going along oh yeah, okay, I just get them to do this and they move on. Every year I have doubts, just like we all do. I'd be in the middle of a game and you don't know if you're going to win or lose. We have doubts. And I didn't think Joe was going to make it through. And I mean, but all I can do is we just got to put our head down and we got to keep grinding and going. I like to also create that level. There is a sense where we create a level of adversity to make sure. You got to, like you said, read the room. You got to create a level of adversity so that you are preparing them, a level of grind that you are preparing them, so that when they move on, they can handle it. So I like to believe it's a little bit harder here than it is at most junior colleges. And I build them up to a level of trust. And then once I get them to trust me, then I probably do a little extra. Then I go on to get to the dark side where I go a little bit harder than I probably should. And doing that, it creates a sense of adversity for them to where they can in our own right, so that they can be prepared to handle anything in life. I create the level of adversity from a basketball standpoint so that they can handle anything on the court. And then we create a sense of adversity, requiring them to be held to a standard to the T, with showing up on time, with all these different things, so that sense of adversity and not always responding to when things are going wrong in their lives, and not coddling them all the time and not letting them cry on my shoulder all the time. It's like, okay, now this is something that you're going to handle, because this is pain that you're going to feel in life. So let's get through it. And I'm not gonna be your crutch this moment. Sometimes I will be, because you got to have a level of compassion on knowing what's really going on. But there's a feel to know when to kind of let them fall in their face, and there's a feel to know when to pick them up. But that sense of fulfillment, I've won enough, man. Of course, I want to win the state championship, and the show built up the state championship as the thing that we were trying to accomplish. But for me, it's seeing them play on television, and it's phenomenal. It was great. During the pandemic, I've never watched my players as much as I've been able to because of the pandemic. Normally I'm going through my season and I can't find ESPN 2 and 3, and I can't keep up with all the weird channels that they're on. They're on some Ohio Valley channel conference. And I can't find all the games and download like 10 apps. It's like where you can get all the games. But I was downloading apps, and I was on Tubu. I was on Hulu, and their games were on all these apps, and so I was finding them. And to me, that's what brings tears to my eyes, to watch a guy. He followed the instruction, and then his dream comes true, him going to a Division I. And then not only that, he's able to make it and perform there. To me, I just get humbled that, man, I was able to have an impact, that not only to get him there, because you can sometimes sell a coach to take a kid, but then he's able to have an impact there because of some of the things that we were able to teach him. And then not only that, man, he was able to get his degree, and he got it. He figured it out.
That's awesome.
He's not thinking about, hey, I'm a league. I'm going to the league. He's not thinking. He actually figured out, I'm gonna get my degree, and you can hear his tone change in his voice, like, "Hey, coach, I'm getting my degree. I'm doing great in academics." And to me, man, that means so much to me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I liked what you said about you get them to a point, you build a connection, and you push them, and then you get to a point where you kind of say, well, I probably don't need to do this, but I know it's going to help them later on, right? And that takes me back to when we're playing, top. I know our coach always made us have the toughest non-conference schedule to prepare us for that. So then when we get into our conference weekend series, it's like, hey, like we've done this before. Like we went against 95 and in D3, but I'm really happy you brought up this idea of adversity and connecting it to life, because, I see it now. It's like I can draw on so many experiences just in my career as an athlete and a coach. It's like I've been here before, like this whatever, this paper or whatever it is for me now in graduate school is nothing. So I really appreciated that when you shared that.
Yeah.
And it kind of also talks about like your ability to react. And I know you mentioned it a lot like on the show, and like we've already talked about it a little bit previously, but just getting these young adults the ability to know how to react to the situation in an appropriate way, whether that means it's, actually being able to overcome the adversity or just facing it head on, even like the first step. Like that's the biggest part, is that when we're in a society now and like kind of a generation where you see it's less and less common for people to actually turn and face the adversity that they're, forced to, go up against. And like the fact that you're able to instill that into individuals and like at a younger age to prepare them for a life beyond the sport, because that's really what it is. The sport you get to play for the prime of your years, and then you kind of have to learn how to live life afterwards. And doing that in the way that you do it just makes sense for these individuals to go on and become successful in whatever they do, because they've already come equipped with the tools, right, to handle life. And that's the biggest thing, is like having to figure out how to navigate the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. It's funny how sports can do that. You never would think that like a game, a pure game that we're trying to just go out there and win every day, kind of succeed at, can reflect itself into your life as person X amount of years away from the court or from the field, or it's kind of a remarkable thing that we get to experience as athletes or coaches or just anybody who loves the sport, really. So
just changing the response, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. And, in the show, Coach Rob, they kind of had a spotlight on him and the grind that he's kind of been through and some of the sacrifices that he's had to give to be able to coach and do something he loves. And same with you, just your journey to ELAC. And, I think you have more of an impact or think that you can on kids. And I think that's really important. But, what can you say about the grind for coaches? I mean, finding a paid position is really few and far between. And if you want to stay around the game, I know it's hard. So what can you say to, those kind of group of people who are really grinding and want to make an impact, but, don't necessarily have the chance?
Yeah, well, I don't want to discourage anybody, but
I know.
I finally have a comfortable salary. Like literally it started 4 years ago. I'm 47 going on 48. And so you're talking about 4 years ago that, I'm finally got a tenure position, and I just got my tenure letter. And what I mean, a comfortable position where I feel like, okay, the salary is good. And I feel like I'm in a position where I'm not under this extreme pressure and I can lose my job. And then the salary is okay, where it's doable, where I can stay here long enough to retire. And, I have to build up retirement. I got to do like 20 years, man. I probably got to go all the way to 65 coaching and teaching, but I'm teaching here. But there's a myriad of ways to earn a living. But as a coach is a coach, man. I don't think you really can expect, you got to make a living. You got to take care of your family. But if you're a coach, I wouldn't expect, and some of us get lucky and some of us are blessed that right away we get opportunities, salary opportunities. It's about being in the right place at the right time. It's about who you know. All those variables matter. But being a coach, I don't think financially is a way that we want to classify ourselves and say, well, I'm not a coach because I'm not making this, or I am a coach because I'm making this. A coach is a guy who's getting in there and he's having the impact on that team atmosphere and understand the things that it takes to grind. I think it's important to go through to be in the trenches with some things. Like I think I was at a Division I school where we were making a Division I transition, and I was able to learn all the aspects of, what it takes to be a Division I coach from a recruiting standpoint, not at a situation where I was at a 5-star, where I could get 5 stars and I'd just go look at a sheet of the top 20 players and I just say, okay, I'm gonna go watch those 20 players. Yeah. You had a situation where I'm in a Division I program and I got to learn how to grind. I got to learn how to get these kids through academically, because those are the kids that we're getting, the kids that are have academic issues. I've been fortunate enough to learn that, but at the same time, because I'm down in the gutter, the compensation isn't great. Yeah. But you got to be willing to accept that. I think the position I'm in now, I think I've taken one of the hardest routes, and I think a lot of coaches, the majority of us are going to be the hardest routes where we start off with a stipend, right? We start off with, we almost working for free. You know, I was working 3 jobs when I started out as coaching. So my my mentor, he said, hey, when I came back professionally from playing in Australia, he said, hey, why don't you come, and I had 1 class to finish. Why don't you finish this course, and then you could come and sit on the bench with me. So yeah, I'm sitting on the bench, and then I finished the course, and then I say, man, you know what? I really like this. And really, the only thing I was getting was, you know, I get some. I finished the course. You know, I was really looking forward to when we traveled with the team. That was the best living. I finally got to sleep in a good bed when we traveled. I got to eat for free. But then when it came back to, you know, coming off the road, man, I was scrapping. I was trying to find scraps to survive. And then eventually he gave me a little bit of money, you know, and I started working on my graduate program, and yet and still here we are. If you want to be a coach, I mean, I could have stepped away from that and decided to do something else to make money. But I said I wanted to be a coach, and really I enjoyed. Here's the thing, man. You're so invested in coaching so much that you forget that you broke, you know?
Yeah.
That's when you know you're a coach, man. When you forget you're broke, you're so invested in it, you forget you're broke. And I think that, to sum it up, that's when you know that you're a coach.
Yeah.
And that's when you know you love it, because you forget you're broke. And you know, you really forget it. And I think, heck, with any field that you go into, you know you love it when you forget you're broke, you know?
Yeah. And I think it lets you appreciate what you do have when you get it. Or like you said, you're working 3 jobs and you're like, hey, I got basketball practice tonight. You know, it's fine. You know, like I think that's with anything too. Like if you're really invested in it and you truly love it, like you'll find a way to keep pursuing that goal. And you know, balancing, it's nice too that, you know, you're in a position that you're a little more settled down, so you can, you know, your kids have a more steady kind of schooling thing, and you're able to, you know, go to their sporting events. And I know that's a really big thing once you become, you know, a dad, that you find ways to incorporate that while not, you know, losing out on your career aspirations. But
that was important. And I think for me, everybody talks about being authentic. And I think if I wasn't, you know, if I wasn't doing what I needed to do to keep the family together, if the family wasn't first, then I would have looked fake up there. But my family truly was the most important thing, to make sure that they don't suffer, or they don't, you know, that they're not put off by my career or anything that I do in basketball. So
yeah, it's a tough road to navigate, but listen, we're really happy you were able to join us. I know you're a busy guy, so you know, thanks for your insight. I know I had a lot of questions about, you know, this culture thing, and we're really happy you're able to come on here for this episode.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. Listeners, this is our 3rd episode in May, I think. It will be. So we still have our American Cancer Society fundraiser up. We're down to 9 shirts left, 9 I think. Shirts. Awesome. Yep. So be sure to grab that. $20. We'll ship it to you. And thanks again to John for a great episode.
Absolutely. All right.
Appreciate it.